Hey everybody, this edition of Lionheart Radio is brought to you by the world's first creatine coffee. Each scoop is a full cup of a Colombian Arabica bean coffee infused with 5 grams of a creatine monohydrate. Now here's the deal, guys. A lot of people have differing opinions about creatine, and unfortunately a lot of really shitty supplement companies have tried to sell it to kids that want to get big, and they package it as some kind of steroid alternative, and they tell you if you cycle it and if you stack it, then you'll gain a bunch of muscle mass. And at the end of the day, none of that is true. What is true is that it's one of the most studied and beneficial supplements on the market for strength, recovery, and endurance. So whether you're a runner, whether you are a strength athlete, or whether you're somebody that wants to enhance cognitive function and just feel healthier in everyday life, a pharmaceutical-grade creatine monohydrate is going to help get you there. Go to www.creatinecoffee.com to learn what all the hype is about. And now, on to the show. All right, welcome back to Lionheart Radio. I'm your host, Rick Alexander, founder of Lou Aviv, based in San Diego, California. And today I'm here with my co-host, Claudia.
Hi guys, Claudia Challoner, Doctor of Physical Therapy and nationally ranked powerlifter. And we have a special guest today, Theresa Larson. She's a Doctor of Physical Therapy, former Marine, founder of Movement RX. She has been an instructor for MobilityWOD, author of the book Warrior, an adaptive athlete coach. She's the co-founder of the Low Back Fix and mom to be at literally any moment now.
Any moment. I'm going to pop.
Like, we didn't know if we were going to be able to do this.
Just a quick text. Has your water broken yet?
So I think what we should do is go through the warrior story so that everybody listening can kind of figure out or get an idea about where you are coming from. And then we can kind of move into all of the other accomplishments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sure. So warrior story is something... Well, 5 years ago, I was approached by a ghostwriter. If you've ever heard of a ghostwriter, he's not literally a ghost. He's just someone who likes to write other people's stories. He approached me when I gave a talk out in DC for the National Eating Disorder Association. And I was basically talking about my experience of having an eating disorder for the first time. This was 5 years ago. And he asked me if he would write my story, if he could help me write my story. And I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? He spent all that time. But he was someone who had a family member very close to him, really struggled with an eating disorder, and she was a collegiate athlete. And he's like, I just think people really need to hear this story because there's so much disconnect with people understanding what eating disorders are like. And there's a lot of very driven women and men who have them, but there's a lot of shame behind it. So once... Like most of the books out there on eating disorders are how to heal from an eating disorder or more psychological help versus like testimonials. So the warrior story isn't just about an eating disorder. It just so happened that's where I hit my rock bottom and had to pick myself back up. But I was gung-ho about writing the story. And through writing the story, it really helped me heal. And so essentially... through writing the story, I realized I'm not alone in the process of going through struggles in my life and it wasn't just an eating disorder, it was a fitness addiction, which I'm sure many people listening can probably relate to. Why are you working out? How much are you working out each day? What's your purpose? Right. Do you feel good about yourself even if you didn't PR, or didn't make it to the gym that day? Or if you ate a box of brownies, would you really hate yourself kind of thing. So I know I'm not alone when I did struggle in that way. Yeah. But
you're not alone in this room.
No.
Yeah. Speaking to the choir.
So essentially the warrior story, what I wanted to, I grew up in a household of dudes. So my dad and brothers, I lost my mom when I was 10, and awesome family, but very, very competitive family. Went off to college, played softball, did ROTC, did probably way too much more what a college student should do. I was up in the morning early, 5 o'clock, go to class, train with my softball team for 3 or 4 hours, and then train again. That's my typical day. So I would sleep 4 or 5 hours. And that was a typical day for me through college and then through my time in the Marine Corps too. So I just thrived off of pressure And I thrived off of performance, and I thrived off of being the best. Like I had to be the best. From my freshman year in college, like I had to be the best pitcher in the Big East. And I was determined to be that. And I didn't feel good about myself until I was. In the Marine Corps, I had to be the fastest, the most respected. And so I would push myself. I wouldn't mess around, so to speak. I did what I was told. Like I took my brother's advice, don't screw around, don't make friends kind of thing, and it was, and that's actually can be kind of a lonely life. Like when you live like that, because you're always, every moment you're thinking about how am I going to get better, and which isn't bad, but if you have no balance in your life and your whole self-esteem is revolved around perfection and being the best, and you don't really have any intrinsic love for yourself, everything comes off of numbers and wins and people's feedback. It's like you're going to hit rock bottom at some point. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I did have a very loving family. Like my father was single parent, paid a lot of attention, went to all my games, softball games, and just super supportive. That drive came from within. Like I, from a young age, realized performance was my identity. And so when I got in the Marine Corps, my second year as a platoon commander, right before I deployed for Iraq, I developed bulimia. And of course I was like, I didn't know it was bulimia at the time. didn't want to acknowledge. I probably knew it was. I just didn't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Well, so bulimia, just real quick, and anorexia are different.
Yes.
So anorexia is not eating. Bulimia is actually you eat. So there's different options. You eat, you throw up, or you don't eat and you work out. So that's more anorexia. You don't eat, work out a lot, or bulimia is you eat and then you work out excessively. Okay.
So there's different options. There's lots of different kinds of eating disorders though. Like there's obsessive compulsive, there's overeating, eating disorder. There's one that's where, for example, like if people just eat paleo and they freak out if they don't not eat paleo, like that's also, I think it's called orthexia or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's where they're obsessed with a certain diet. And if they go out to eat or they eat something that's not on that diet, they freak out.
Yeah.
So like the key is that you're operating at a huge caloric deficit.
Right.
Unhealthily.
Well, you're maybe not, like with bulimics, you really can't tell. Because I look very fit and healthy, but I would still eat excessively. And then I have the binge purge type. So you eat and then you throw up.
Is that typically the most common with bulimia?
Bulimia and then binge eating disorder is the other most common. And the binge eating disorder is most common in men.
Okay.
But the more research I've done, and I didn't know this in the Marine Corps, I thought I was alone. Like, I can't tell anybody about this. This is stupid. Like, I have a eating problem, but that's not going to take me away from deploying or leading my Marines, right? Like, everyone has issues. This is just an issue I have to deal with. Little did I know how deadly it can be, right? And I was operating at a caloric deficit many days, but I still looked pretty normal because I was still getting some calories. You know what I mean? Yeah. And people just were like, oh, you're just really fit all the time. So the thing is, so I didn't acknowledge I had a problem, and I wouldn't because I was so driven and dedicated to my platoon. Like, I wasn't going to be that lady that had to not deploy because of XYZ. Right. I wasn't going to be the typical, what I thought, female Marine. And don't get me wrong, I have a much different outlook on female Marines now, but at the time I was like, I wanted to make a difference and I wanted to not fit into the stereotype, so to speak, which is totally BS, right? The stereotype of women can't hang, not physically fit enough. No, I was not going to let anyone say that about me. So I deployed with my Marines and was not exactly in a desk job, so to speak. I was an engineer. Well, is that what your job? You're a combat engineer. Yeah. So I got to do a lot of cool things, do a lot of things that a lot of women weren't supposed to be doing, so to speak, at that time. This was in 2005. So women weren't acknowledged by Congress to be in combat yet. However, as you know, being in Afghanistan, Iraq, there's really no front line. So as an engineer, you go out of the wire, anything could happen, right? So, our job was support and building FOBs, forward operating bases for the Army. We did work with First Recon out there quite a bit.
Do a lot of route clearance as well? As in landmine
clearing? Yep. Yeah. So And we were a big part of the first Iraqi election. And then for me, because I was like 6'1" and a more intimidating woman out there at Camp Fallujah, they had me do escort female terrorists.
Oh.
So like when the Delta Force or SEALs would capture a cell and they had a woman that they had caught too, they would bring her back to Camp Fallujah, and then I would go with the regimental commander in like the middle of the night and return her to her build.
So you were part of the FST,
yes.
The female support team.
I supported, I had women I had 2 women in my platoon, 3 women in my platoon at the time. They were on vehicle checkpoint duty. So they were really hardly ever part of our missions. Mm-hmm. It was a special case. Like for me, it was like random times the regimental commander would pull me out, and if a woman was captured, I wasn't on the female.
Gotcha. I see what you're saying.
No.
But
it was a special case scenario. Yeah. Those were special case scenarios. So I did that probably 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. So my life out there was very intense, but also I felt very lonely, like on a personal, like it was what every Marine would want to do. Yeah. I was doing what every Marine would want to do. I just was very lonely. And because at the end of the day, like going and hanging out with my male peers, I didn't want anybody talking about me like, oh, Lieutenant Hornick, that's my last name at the time, is getting really cozy with XYZ, Right. I mean, just people talk. It's like, you just have to I was much more conscious of my self-reflection at the time, or how people perceive me, because I was a 24-year-old lieutenant in charge of all of these people, and I wanted to have a good reputation.
Well, why do you think you felt lonely? Just because you were having to be that person constantly?
Yeah, there's no time off. Yeah. And then when I go to my room, it's like, I'm not going to bring, my comrades were males. I'm not going to bring them into my room, right? My Marines were we all lived so close to each other, and actually right next door. Mm-hmm. So it was like, you had to be careful of who and how you hung out. And I think for someone who was healthy, had a healthy mindset, that would have been fine. But for me, I was lonely. I missed my family. I had a boyfriend at the time who was in Ramadi, but didn't get to talk to him that much. Mm-hmm. But that was the time when that's when I really struggled with my eating disorder, when I was alone, because that was my companion. And anyone who has an addiction, you'll realize that's your companion. Mm-hmm. What do you do when you're lonely? Whether it's alcohol, drugs, abusing fitness, food, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
So I struggled quite a bit. It ended up, so long story short, after a long night of running missions for the first Iraqi election, I realized here I am in charge of all of these men and women, and I'm digging it. I'm doing well at it, but I'm malnourished. My mind is fluttering between what am I going to binge and purge next and what I'm doing with that mission. So I wasn't focused, right? And if you're in a war zone, you want to be focused.
Yeah, you got to have personal shit together.
Yeah. And so it wasn't fair.
Or it won't be together and you have to ignore it completely.
Right.
In order to be effective. Right.
So I realized that, okay, I gotta turn myself in, ask for help. And no one would ever have known I had a problem until I asked for help. Mm-hmm. So I did. My commander was supportive for the most part, but again, there's not a lot of understanding of eating disorders. So it's well, you just have a hard time going to the chow hall. It's so much more than that. It's not really about the food. It's about the fact that you can't, you're struggling with your life and handling the stress and who are you and that self-love. It goes much deeper than just the thing you're actually abusing.
Eat more.
Right? And empathy in the Marine Corps is not exactly.
No. So I turned myself in and was like, listen, I need to go get actual help for this, because I don't feel like I'm being an effective leader. No one else was like, Theresa, you're really sucking today. What's your problem? It was more me having to step up and say, listen, I don't want to do this, but I don't think I'm the most effective leader right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's fair to my Marines. I don't think it's fair to my family that I'm abusing myself like this. And I don't think it's fair to me. Sure. So I did get medevaced home by my choice. They gave me an option to stay in Iraq, but I was like, well, do you have any eating disorder specialists in Iraq?
Yeah.
Like, no,
Right,
don't.
right.
Like at that point I was like, if I'm going to get help, I'm going to get help by someone who understands what's going on with me. So I came home and it was very hard, like facing the Marine Corps, facing my family even, who are Marines, and just having to like constantly stick up for myself and be like, you know, as much as people would say, I was told I was a disappointment by my own company commander, who is now actually a friend of mine, battalion commander. I knew in my heart, deep down, that was actually an act of leadership. Like, yeah, I could have said something before I left, but I didn't. I was taking on that Marine mentality of, no, like, I'm not going to let anything get in the way, right? Like, I don't want anything to get in the way of me and my team not deploying.
Yeah.
But it did, like, the Marine Corps is going to go on. There's some other lieutenant that could take my job and do just fine, right? Like,
Always, yeah.
And so by me being able to say, hey, I need help. This is a problem. I can't be at 100%. Like, someone's going to get hurt because of me, I think is an act of leadership.
Sure. And how many things in life are that way, where the right call and the popular call are not related?
Yeah. You know? So it was tough because my whole identity was, I'm a badass Marine. Nothing can mess with me, you know, star athlete. Like I really had to one, I was on I went to rehabilitation. I had to go to rehab, outpatient rehab. And I started to like look at what I wanted in my life and what kind of things made me happy and what kind of things, how would I manage this? How do I manage my life and like actually find intrinsic love for myself? Which sounds kind of funny, but super important. Like whether I'm an athlete or not, who am I and what do I want to do? Because that was the problem. I didn't know. Like I was just following people's footsteps, following what was popular, had to be badass. I had to have people tell me I was good enough, right? I didn't really believe it inside. So that's like the framework of the warrior story, is that in the end, people always saw me as this strong woman physically. But what I'm most proud of is the fact that I feel like my inner strength, like being able to ask for help and knowing that's an act of leadership and being able to slow down and like really truly ask myself, what do I want, was what made me a warrior. What makes me a warrior. It's not being a combat veteran or a star athlete or all the accomplishments, right? All the accomplishments that we just read. Like, it's not that. It's the fact that, no, I'm willing to ask for help if I need it. I'm willing to slow down, and whatever it takes to be healthy, have a healthy mind, healthy body is what makes me a warrior. So
let me ask you this. If you're at the beginning of the story, you talked a lot about like what pushed you into these addictions and pushed you into these eating disorders, was the fact that like you were so focused on being successful in that role that you were playing at the time. And my question is, what are the options? Because it seems that for a lot of people to be highly successful, you almost have to adopt that single-minded focusedness. I mean, I've seen it with my business, where I'll focus so hard on the business and then my health will start going to shit, or my relationships. But it's almost so hard to get above the noise and be successful in any other way. So for people that are like, you know, driven to be successful and don't necessarily want to see their life fall apart in all other aspects. Like what is...
That's a good question.
Finding that balance, you know?
Because I deal with it too. Like being a business owner now. I mean, when I was writing the book, I was like, wow, there are still themes there that I struggle with. Like I'm kind of always in recovery.
Sure.
I don't suffer with bulimia anymore, thank goodness, but there's still that hard on myself, always trying to search for balance. And I think having had some really good mentors in my life, I realized there really is no such thing as perfect balance. But being driven and being a business owner and being able to be extremely successful does come with sacrifice, but the sacrifice may be, so you've got mind, body, spirit, right? Like you're mentally sometimes really focused on building your business, and physically you're training maybe once or twice a week. Like you're not training as much as you want to, but you're still getting in maybe movement every day.
Yeah.
And spiritually, well, what are you doing there? Are you meditating? Are you taking time for reflection each week? It doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Right.
But if you look at that like basically triangle of mind, body, spirit, like how are you filling those cups each day?
Yep.
And it's okay sometimes if you're focused a lot on the mental. Like if it's maybe 80% mental because you're just like, you're building something, you got to focus, like you got to keep driving, you know it's going to end. Physically, you know you need movement, but you can't work out like you want to. So the key is not to beat yourself up over that. The key is to say, all right, especially if your goal is business, like you can't be 100% at everything. You just can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I was in the Marine Corps and a professional athlete, a softball player, like that was my focus, 100%. Right. Majority of the percent. Now it's more being a successful business owner, and then it's in a week or now, mother. But like
that mom role's coming in hot.
Yeah, that mom. My friend Jill Miller's like, you're a mompreneur. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the thing is like acknowledging mind, body, spirit. None of those are going to be a perfect balance. So when you're focusing a lot on your business, which is fine, it's fun, right? You're developing something, you're getting it out to the world.
Right.
Like you obviously are driven. Like I think of my business as a way to impact the masses. Well, I know I need movement, but what's the minimum dose it can get each day to be healthy? Like I'll walk, do a quick CrossFit workout, but it's not going to be every day.
Right.
Like it might be twice a week, but I do some other kind of movement during the day, whether it's getting up between, working sessions. Like, is that ideal for me and my personality? No, but it's something. And then the spiritual side, that's also important. Whether it's you like to go to church, pray, meditate, spend time breathing, you're breathing anyway, but doing concentrated
conscious
breath.
Yeah.
Adding that into your day too, where it doesn't have to be 20 minutes or an hour, right? It can be 3 minutes in the morning or 3 minutes in the evening. It can be when you're sitting on the freaking toilet. Like, seriously. That sounds weird, but to hear Ujjayi breathing when you're going to the bathroom too. Yeah. Try it, everybody. It works really well.
On the squatty potty?
Yes.
Exactly.
100%.
In the squatty potty and at least 110 degrees of hip flexion. Okay. So, but I know that you have to be, as someone who's driven, you have to be okay with the fact that balance, those three components are going to shift. Right? When you go on vacation, it's going to be less mental, with work, and you're going to...
Is it?
It should be. Yeah. So you want to work...
How's your vacation going?
You want to work to that.
Right.
Well, let's say when you're going to the Bahamas, it's like a work vacation for you. Yeah. But it shifts a little bit. And maybe on a weekend, maybe it's a Sunday where you'd tell yourself, we're not doing any work today. We're going to focus more on the spirit.
Yep.
Going out for a hike, where you add movement, or going to church, or spending a little longer time doing breath work or meditation. The key is, though, that you accept that. Like you are able to accept the fact that there is no real balance, that you're kind of always shifting, but you've got a component of those three things in your day.
Right.
But they're not going to be perfectly cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be like, I'm not shooting to be a professional athlete anymore. I'm not shooting to be like the fucking most badass in the gym. I just want to be freaking healthy.
Right.
And I also want to run a business that's very impactful. And so the way I cope with that, right? If I was like so hard on myself all the time, shit, I didn't get my workout in today. Like I didn't meditate for an hour. Like you're constantly putting yourself down because you didn't do these things that you're supposed to do. Then your coping is going to eventually be something negative. Like I have friends that are functional alcoholics, right? They hate their life. They hate the fact that they work 8 hours, 9 hours. They don't train the way they want to, and they're constantly hard on themselves about it. And so they go to drinking because it numbs them. Or you watch too much TV at night because it numbs you. You don't connect with your partner, or you eat too much. So the key is like you learn to accept the fact that there is a shift in balance every day almost. And that you have to, by that acceptance means you're going to cope more efficiently with the ebb and flow of your life.
Yeah.
And as long as you are being diligent about what you want and leading your life, like right now, I'm very business oriented. as long as I'm okay with that, I'm not beating myself, that I'm not working out every single day the way I used to. Okay, I'm good. If I was beating myself up, I'd be more likely to cope in negative ways.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that being gentle with yourself. And the, successful, and everyone defines success differently, but oftentimes you'll find like John Maxwell, for example, top leadership coach in the country. He has a structure to his day. He wakes up, he does prayer, so it could be meditation for some people. He writes, and then he gets at about noon, he starts to actually engage with other people. So he has this plan of what's healthy for him. And it allows him to, he's being authentic. He's being pointing on what he wants, and his ability to cope with his life. Like, he doesn't have any negative coping mechanisms because he's developed his day realistically of what his focus is. But he makes sure to get mind, body, spirit things in every day, even if it's like 3% spirit, 90% work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's a great visual just to think about that. And for people that are really driven, because I think you constantly beat yourself up because you're not 100% in all of those categories. So it's nice to kind of just keep that in the back of your mind all the time, making sure you're getting somewhat of a piece to each of it. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Steph Gaudreau is a good friend of mine, and we've talked about it quite a bit. Like, she's a competitive lifter.
The stupid easy paleo.
Yeah. And it's been a shift for me because running a business, I was finding that I was beating myself up for not, and here I'm in the CrossFit world and working for MobilityWOD, like, I'm teaching all these seminars, but I am not working out by any means the way I used to. And I would beat myself up for that. But because I was reflecting a lot, I was doing a lot of reflecting on the spiritual side. I realized I don't want to actually work out the way I used to.
Right.
I'm in a different phase of my life. Like, I'm in a phase where I can impact so many people with the work I do and the people I work with. So that's my focus. And then the working out, I still want to work out, but how am I going to do it where it's healthy for my body and I maintain, a healthy body and movement, but I'm not like beating myself up. So
the two things that I've on this front. One is Jason Khalipa. I heard him talk about this, which is being completely present in the things that you're doing, like be all in. And it sounds cliche, and it's probably found itself on a shit ton of Instagram memes, but it makes a huge difference. So if you only have 10 minutes to focus on whatever activity, but if you're checking your phone or going back and forth in Windows, right? Like 10 minutes of email, like me catching up on email versus 10 minutes of me emailing on my phone and looking at Facebook, like those are all, like, you could be way more effective. Like, there's actually more time to squeeze out effective work in your day than you even think there probably is.
Yes.
They actually did NPR did a TED Talk on happiness and people that are present in the moment and actually focus on whatever task. It can even be stuck in traffic, but you're actually focusing on that or focusing on whatever you're doing. It can even be like a negative activity, but if you're full and focused on it and present, then it actually makes you happier.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great, I think Harvard put out a study as well years ago about it. And it's like when you can be whether you're cleaning toilets or on email, if you're present, you are going to be happier. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so I'm currently active duty still, and we were talking about this before the show. I don't get out of the military officially until December. And in the military, like, I would like to think my billable hours are like pretty good for Louis V, right? But for my business, but in the military, I could give a shit. So like if I'm like pulling weeds one day, I'm pulling weeds, and that's a hard thing to stomach once I've been doing so much work on the outside. And I had to come to that realization. It's like, if you are going to do it, you just have to do it well.
Yeah.
And it does make a difference. It makes you happier.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah, totally.
And then the other thing is the idea of debt. So applying the idea of debt and you can do this to relationships, or you can do it to working out. So if we just look at working out for an example, or being healthy, if you put something in, it's an asset. If you take something away, it's like making a withdrawal from your bank account. So 8 hours of sleep would be an asset. Getting drunk and passing out for 6 hours would be a withdrawal.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And the idea is that you can at least keep a positive account balance, because eventually once you pull so much out, like a negative account balance in health looks like tissue damage or torn muscles or joints or whatever that is. But looking at those other areas and just trying to keep them in the positive, for me, has kind of helped.
Yeah, that's a nice analogy.
Way to look at it too.
Yeah. And same with relationships. Like you can really like apply that to anything, I think. So the thing that I've also, any driven person, I would challenge them to think this way too. Just why, so with work, for example, like I do find a lot of fulfillment in the work I do, but why am I working? You know, what is the point of me working? Right. Like
running your own business, you could put in mass amounts of hours a day, and sometimes it's aggravating and sometimes it's great. Hopefully most of the time it's great. But the thing is to think about, just like with your sport, like why are you training the way you do? What's the purpose? And for me, the purpose, and this is something just I've realized over the years of finally doing introspection, is freedom and flexibility to me are things I value very much. The freedom to be with my family whenever, the freedom to travel, the freedom to say and treat people the way I think they should be treated, and the flexibility to do that, like be able to live anywhere and actually have something that affects people. Like I don't have to be in one place to affect the masses. I can be anywhere. And so those things drive me, because the freedom and flexibility gives me more time with my family, the people I love. Yeah. And so that helps drive me in my work versus just making money, or just, you know, like the focus isn't just money. It's not just like popularity. It's freedom and flexibility to be with the people I love. Because at the end of my life, and even if the end of my life was tomorrow, I don't wish I worked more. I wish I spent more quality time with the people I love, and I was more present. And of course, realistically, like there are days where you're like, wow, I just worked so much and did not spend one moment and talk to anyone I love or do anything fun. Right. But hopefully most days aren't like that. And you can create a life where, you have this business endeavor, but life is a marathon. It's not necessarily a race. Right. And you can get it done. But why are you working so hard? Right? Don't forget to tell your family you love them. Don't forget to take those vacations to visit them. Don't forget to take a Saturday and Sunday off so you can like regroup. Yeah. And that's, I think, maybe the spirit side of it, is remembering what you're working for. Is it because you're trying to compete against your buddy and make more money than him? Is it because you're trying to go on Shark Tank? Like, what's the depth? What do you really want? Right. And for me, it's that freedom and flexibility to be able to be with my family, support my family, and explore the world. Like, I never want a lot of things. I just love to travel and continually work on being in the present. And so that's the passion behind the work I do. It's like, okay, well, I find it fulfilling, but at the end of my life, I'm not going to think, wow, the low back fix, that was so successful, and movement arcs. Like, I'm going to think, I'm so happy I spent time with my loved ones, and I was able to be there for my kids versus, always working. Right. So being a high performing individual and having the accomplishments that you have, I feel like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they almost force that existential crisis, because they're like, there comes a point where you're working so hard and you're like, and sometimes you're not always making traction, and that's what people don't get. It's like, just because you're putting in the work, you're not always going to get the results you want to get, even if you're putting in the work and you think it's the right place. Timing, there's just a lot of things that go into being successful, and you have to, and sometimes you have those come to Jesus moments where you're like, why am I even putting in this work? Do you love what you do? And you, as a business owner though, if you're, let's say you have a product or you have this methodology that you're working on, I think sometimes if you're not exactly business minded, which I think most entrepreneurs really don't start that way. Right. You start because you love what you do. Yep. And then you realize, holy crap, there's so much to learn about being an entrepreneur. Right. But I think the key is brain fart. You're going to want to edit this part out. Yeah, no problem. I had something really profound to say. So if you have this product or this thing, it might take a few years to actually be what you consider successful. Yeah. Right. So like developing, let's say this low back fix digital product. It's a new way of thinking out there. There's other competitors we have. And I can't expect, which I did right away, that this would be like the most successful thing.
Right.
Like year one, it's going to be kick ass and it's going to support, be financially supportive.
Mm-hmm.
I need to look 5 years down the line. Like, what kind of work is it going to take to build this for 5 years down the line when it's actually is creating enough revenue for us and it's providing me more freedom and flexibility for my family, et cetera. And I think a lot of people think reactive short term because of the lack of focus. Like you can focus for a day and 2 weeks, right? But can you focus for 5 years on something you believe in? Can you focus for even a year?
Yeah.
And that's where the mental strength and that digging deep comes in. You're going to want to have another means of income, right? If you aren't making money yet. Yeah. But I have those people that do make it are the ones that have that long-term, what am I going to sell this? Like, this is what I want to sell it at in 5-10 years versus like, crap, I didn't make money month 1 or 2 or 3. Well, that's pretty realistic. That's pretty common.
Yeah. The amount of people that are getting really excited. And I think just because I own a business, so people are always coming to me for advice that are starting a business and they're so excited. And I always try to weather expectations. Like, you're not going to open your door and be Amazon. And people are like, just can't hear it until they do. And then they that was me, like with Louis V. I launched it and I'm like, yes, I'm about to be a millionaire. Yeah. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing.
It's actually, I get similar stuff too with practitioners or coaches that are looking to start their own thing. And it's exciting because like as a PT, we don't get a lot of business training in school.
And like zero?
We get it with like 20 other classes we're taking in one time. So it's really not And I think whatever I learned in that class was like, don't.
In and out.
But that is a passion of mine, is to like be able to inspire other practitioners to start their own thing or develop their own brand, because it is empowering. You know, when you start to build your own clientele and you realize, wow, I don't have to work for a medical company or it's empowering. And I think the practitioner world is where I want to focus my efforts eventually with the business type training. My husband's actually the mastermind behind that, not me.
Well,
so like thinking about, I guess, long-term plan, knowing that things aren't going to be successful right off the bat, making sure that you know your why and you have that purpose in what you're doing and you love what you're doing, I think is going to help you be able to focus long-term versus just really wanting to get into it for the money. Maybe you kind of like it. Your why isn't very clear. It's going to be really hard for you to set into it like long-term, I think. But. Yeah,
and I completely agree. And having something, so you guys are probably very similar, something that challenges you. So like you can love it, but like for me, it has to constantly grow. Like that's why being a PT, like if I were just to do one-on-one care, I mean, you've heard this, Claudia, many times. I would go crazy. If that was just what I did, and I did almost go crazy. Just admit it. I didn't last in a clinic for very long. But that's why realizing, wow, what can I do with my mind? Like there are other things I can do. I can work with strength coaches. I can coach adaptive athletes. I don't have to just be in rehabilitation. Oh, what about this digital online? Like Riding Warrior really opened my eyes to the digital world, which is very daunting. Yeah. But it's very cool because you can reach people in freaking Saudi Arabia. Across the world that are using your programs and helping themselves. And is it the perfect program for them? Nothing's perfect, but it's going to help them maybe much more than what they're getting. Yeah. And so it's kind of cool to see, to love, the love for helping people heal, which is why I became a PT, like understanding physically how to help someone heal, but then realizing, well, I don't have to just do it the way society thinks I should just do it. I can do it other ways, which is really cool. Right. And that's been really empowering for me.
Something you alluded to a little bit ago was that Because I think if people are trying to figure out their why, that's a very daunting thing to do. Like, why am I on this earth? Like, that's a question that, like, really you can't answer.
Why do I exist?
Yeah.
On earth with a billion people.
Yeah. But what you talked about is the things that you value. And that's a much more tangible way to go about it. So, like, you say, like, I value the, time, mobility, and freedom to do these things, like spend time with my family. So when you figure out these things that you value, I think it makes it a lot easier to figure out that why.
Yeah, and the why changes too. I couldn't exactly profoundly say my why right now to you guys.
Sure.
But knowing what I value when I'm working for and why I'm working for it is I can like the freedom and flexibility, because that's what drives me each day. And the fact that I get to do things I love. I mean, to say that I love every minute of it would be lying. But the fact that the majority of what I do is very fulfilling, and I want my kid to see that, that drive.
Yep.
I want my kid to experience the freedom and flexibility that comes with being focused and having their parents do something they love and work together. So maybe the why is just being the most healthy human being I can be, to be more impactful for others. Like I have this kind of, I guess it's part of my warrior brand. It's the lead you first type thought where I do care about other people a lot, and I do love helping people, but I need to take care of myself too, so I can be that much more effective for my family. My relationship, my relationship with my family, my husband, my child will go down if my whole why is around helping others. Right? I actually want to be able to help myself and be healthy so I can therefore help others. And that there's an ebb and flow to that from the fact that I am very driven. So I'm always having to kind of keep myself in check. Yeah. But I would say that's the closest thing to my why, is being as healthy as I can possibly be, because I know with the way I am driven, no one can ever take away my work ethic and passion. But if I'm healthy, I will impact many people. I know that. If I'm not, I will not.
Yeah. And that gives you purpose.
Yes.
And animals need purpose. Right. And I think depending on how developed your cognition is, depends on what that purpose, how complex that purpose can be. But you just having that gives you a purpose. Yeah. And the problem is, I think so many people have these, I don't really know what it is, but I think a lot of people, they wind up successful and they can't always put words to how they got there. So then they say shit like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's like, no.
It's like, right. What? Dude,
that's not true.
Right.
Talk to John Cena. Like, I love hearing his story. Yeah. I hear it through Anders. Like, not that I talk to John Cena all the time, but the guy, it's a hustle. It can be a hustle, and there's ups and downs. It's the focus that you have though, through those ups and downs. And I think it's total BS. Like, do what you love and no, you're going to have to work. Yeah. Like, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to cry. You're going to laugh. You're going to hate somebody.
There's a lot of things in society like that, and it's like we have to figure out a way around that, because Tim Ferriss works 60 hours a week on the 4-hour work week. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's just like, we need to be realistic about what's happening,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. On top of that, like, people get really focused on actual attainment of something instead of the process to get there.
Right. And that's where the journey is key. That's something that each year, my husband and I each month sit down and look at how we do things. But again, like, also once a year, we do like a huge dig into like vision and goals. And we've done that with our team too. And it's just, but each month, like, I'm thankful that we're doing it each month now too, like reassessing. Yeah, like, actually cool. In our baby room has our family planning board. Yeah. So the change of table, I'm like, here, Viking baby, this is what's going on in our life. What are you going to contribute? But it's been good because we've literally had to adjust our sales many times, even this year, is this working for us? This isn't working for us. This isn't making us happy. Not that we would be happy 100% of the time, but how are we going to adjust this to make it better for us? Yeah. And also make it more inspiring for people that work with us. So I think that constant reflection in looking at your goals and visions help you stay on a path that's authentic to you and that allows you to get excited about what you do at least 70% of the time.
Right.
Is what you need to stay focused.
Right.
Like, you want to wake up excited. I do believe that. Like, I believe that you do need to wake up the majority of days and be like, all right, I like what I'm doing. I'm ready to get after it.
Mm-hmm.
If you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, whatever. But I like that concept because there have been times months where I haven't woken up inspired and I'm like, what needs to change? And being able, instead of going to get medication for the fact that I feel low, it's what do I need to change in my life to help me feel inspired?
Yeah.
And that's where the monthly reflection of, all right, how are we going to adjust our sales with Movement RX or the low back fix or, whatever.
Yeah.
Or how we interact.
Yeah. Yeah. Even with low back fix, like if you were like, oh, I want to have a digital marketing platform that makes millions, like probably you're not going to last long enough in order to do that.
Right.
But since your thing is, creating value in a different way to people online, like that'll allow you, in my opinion, to go longer and reach more people. And,
Yeah, totally.
And also create a product. What I want isn't necessarily what people need. So being able to understand that, like as I go through, being able to shift and say, all right, this is what, this isn't working out so well. How can we change that?
Yep.
And being open to change, not just being so stubborn that, no, this is the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
This is what the research says. To all you trolls out there. Research isn't everything.
Yeah.
It does help.
Yeah, but a lot of people are like, oh, I want to start a business that does this. And I'm like, no, you want to start a business that serves a need. Otherwise, you don't have a business.
Yeah.
You gotta find the problem and then start to fix that problem. It's like practitioners running a business or there's a lack of understanding, or gym owners running a business. There's a lack of understanding of all that goes into it. Like you don't just, you start a gym and you're like, I love to work out, so I'm gonna start a gym.
Yeah.
Well, that's great for about a month or two. And then you realize, oh shit, bring people in the door and keep bringing people in the door.
Yep.
That business side of things has been super interesting to like study and learn, especially with my husband who's got more of a mind for it. But there's a huge problem in the medical world with that. Because we have gone building partnerships. It helps to go build partnerships with people who understand business. When they don't, it can be like pulling teeth. And so we're like, okay, one day we're going to have this like business training program for practitioners, because that'll only help the problem,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that product market fit and what you want isn't always aligned. It's usually not. So what with low back fix, what is that?
So the low back fix is actually something that kind of, so Anders Varner is, so I used to do one of my mobile locations for Movement RX with San Diego Athletics.
Okay.
And I started there probably 3.5 years ago. But last year, Anders had worked with a lot of people who had low back problems. Like he was doing personal training. And obviously we see a lot of people who also have low back problems.
Yep.
And he was like, oh, I want to create this online. I'd love to have a seminar and then create this online program somehow. But I'd like to be able to do it with a physical therapist like you. And so I was working with him a lot on like mindfulness and breath work and stuff. And he was working with me on some like coaching, like how to better cueing for athletes and whatnot.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the athletes we work with are going to be training. So what's a more effective way to help them be more efficient with their movement? But we came together and built this 8-week long, called it the Low Back Fix digital program. We had to film a bunch of videos and made a little stuff, like a lot of videos. We now have 52 weeks of videos.
For low back pain?
They're all, well, so I'll explain the program. It started with just this 8-week long program. And basically my piece to it was the down regulation type stuff where I know, since I'm not seeing someone, I know I can't. The program isn't going to be necessarily individualized.
Can't diagnose a problem.
No, but what I did do is pull from different assessment styles that I learned from, like MobilityWOD, Gray Cook, Gary Gray, and put together a very simple assessment where people can evaluate themselves. So there's like 7 techniques. It involves standing balance, eyes open, eyes closed, sit to stand without using hands and knees, extension, flexion, rotation.
Just like basic range of motion assessments.
Motion that you should have that also create spinal health too. Like if you have these and you have them in the quality that we want, like your spine technically should be healthy.
Okay.
But most of the population is not optimal. But what it does is, so they go through, the initial part of the program is, in terms of my piece, they go through this assessment. They take themselves through it. So they learn where they're limited. And we have an online Facebook group that we created so people can post videos or stuff if they have questions. But they take themselves through this assessment and then they learn, oh, wow, I can't touch my toes, right, without bending my knees, or my rotation left is worse than right. And is it going to be the same as working with a PT? No, but it's at least they're like acknowledging the fact that they understand that they're missing range, you know, versus someone telling them. And then from there, depending on how they score, so you get scored on your assessment, they follow a certain track of like mobility or stability drills.
Okay.
So
based on what you think they need based on that assessment.
So yeah, because the majority of low back pain is insidious, like, which means basically doctors don't know where it's coming from. They just know it's more of a lifestyle. So Daniel Lieberman in the book, History of the Human Body, the majority of low back pain is not something that happened because of a trauma. It happened just over time, poor posture, poor movement pattern, can totally be prevented. And I think he mentioned 8 in 10 adults have insidious back pain. There is, of course, the people that have been traumatized and have had an accident and have back issues. But the majority of things can be fixed from better movement, improving mobility, improving stability. So based on the assessment, you go down a certain track, and there's 2 different tracks. And then each day of the program, which is a 4-day program, you do about 15 to 20 minutes of that specific mobility drills for, let's say, your hips or your thoracic spine, or stability drills for your low back. We do work the entire body on the low back program, even though it's called the low back, but we focus on the key areas that would be impairments that I find in the clinic. So hip mobility, flexion, extension, rotation, thoracic rotation, flexion, extension. Yeah. Right? The inability to have a nice C curve when you bend over and touch your toes. The C curve meaning like a nice rounded spine versus flat in the low back, flat in the upper back. So that's my piece, there was a lot of thought that went into it. Like you can't give everyone an individual mobility program, but you can definitely have them do that concept that Kelly Starrett talks about is maintenance, right? Like you can work on stuff. And if you're more immobile, there are certain things you should work on daily. And if you're more unstable, like you bend over and touch your toes, you can palm the ground, but you have no tension in your hamstrings. Well, there are things you can do for that. And a lot of it's connected through breath work, like learning how to breathe appropriately. And Anders' part is basically basic movement patterns. Hinge, push, pull, squat, carry. He puts a bunch of drills in there that make sense with enough. So usually the rep range in sets are enough to get done in 45 minutes. And 4 days a week, it's a slow progression, like kind of taking on a Christopher Summers approach where I don't care if it's boring. You will do it in a slow progression, because the problem with society is people just want to jump right back into what they've been doing at the same speed they were doing before they were injured. And it's like, you don't even have a foundation yet. Right. So that's where we started with the 8 weeks, and then did one seminar, and we realized there's something to this. And then we started to build more weeks up to 52 weeks. And then we built a shoulder and knee program, which isn't public. It's only for like corporations, for like, I want all 3. We're going to make them public at some point, but right now the low back fix is that's the biggest epidemic in our country. Pain. So we're kind of testing the waters with campaigns now, and marketing campaigns, and how to get it out to the masses. And so far it's growing slowly but surely, like the way it should grow. But it's been cool for me coming from a standpoint, I mean, I'm not using my mind like I would with a one-on-one, but it is cool to be able to use what I know and impact people across the country who would want to work with me And if I can, tap into 1% of the billions of people that have low back pain a year, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Especially if they learn something about themselves and learn to be more mindful. Like, we don't just work out on the program too. Like, I throw in some meditation, like put a candle in front of me, sit in a gym and do some breath work. Like, it's not just, it's kind of funny, actually.
Well, the body's not 50 pieces working autonomously.
Right.
It's all connected.
Yeah, totally.
So
it's been a cool project, and I really enjoy working with Andrew's pair as part of the project too. So, and Claudia is also a consultant for the physical therapy side, which has been nice because we get all sorts of questions, random questions, and having a child here pretty soon, I don't think I'll be able to tackle all of them. But it's a cool community. Like, it's been pretty empowering for me because I'm like, I had no idea in PT school that I would be doing digital work with people. I wasn't even thought. So why not?
So Lionheart kicker. So we're going to
go for it.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you could give one piece of advice and it was guaranteed that everybody in the world would hear this piece of advice, of course they wouldn't all take it, but they would hear it. What would that advice be?
I would say my one piece of advice is take time to slow down each day and do some reflection, whether it's in the morning or at night or walking slower to work or just slow down. We're such a driven, well, at least in our country, we're so driven. But when you do go slower, you pay more attention and you're more thoughtful.
Yeah. Maybe
it's even in a meeting, like you take time to take a breath before you lash out at somebody.
Yeah, sure.
It would make the world a happier place.
Yeah.
I think if people would actually slow down. And that goes for movement and mindset. So when you slow down your mindset through breath work, you make better decisions. And when you slow down your movement at times to like work on movement patterns, your body will adapt.
Nice.
So
I agree.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So for people that are listening and they want to support what you're doing and follow along with your journey, how can they do that?
So they can check out Movement RX, which is movement-rx.com, or the Low Back Fix, which is thelowbackfix.com. If they want to look at Warrior, it's on Amazon, but it's drteresalarson.com too.
Nice.
So.
And we'll link that up online.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Theresa.
Yeah.
Thanks you guys. It was fun.
Thanks for listening to Lionheart Radio. Subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. And don't forget to give us a 5-star rating for all of your supplement needs. And for show notes, visit luaviv.com.